Welcome to Cool Tunes for a Hot Planet, the podcast that uses music to inspire us in the struggle against climate change. Songs to warm your soul so you can help cool the world.
Hi, I'm Warren Senders, and this is Cool Tunes for Hot Planet. Today's Global Notes episode brings us to meet David Rothenberg, a Connecticut native who spent his artistic career making music with other species, insects, birds, whales, and a wide variety of other earthly life forms. In the process, he's come to view our planetary ecosphere not as something outside of our human experience, but as an active collaborator in the work of creating beauty.
There were bugs on this planet long before there were these more complicated creatures like birds and us. So this is like some of the oldest music you'll ever hear. Bugs are our ever-distant ancestors. We're hearing some connection to the voice of the ancestors. The insects remind us where we came from.
David's interest in interspecies music began in childhood, and over the course of his multi-decade career, he's worked with lots of different life forms, at the same time learning to listen carefully to the kinds of sounds they make, learning to hear patterns where most human beings just hear noise. David is open to all the world's contributions to music.
I've learned a lot from many musicians I've played with. Humpback whales in Hawaii, nightingales in Berlin, lyrebirds in Australia, beluga whales in Russia. Oh, it's very loud over here. This is late August, this is insect time.
When did interspecies music become real for you?
Well, I guess as a little kid, my family moved from New York to Connecticut. Then I spent a lot of time wandering in the woods and got really interested in connecting to nature and listening to the sounds and such. But it wasn't until I was in high school that I learned that there was a musician living nearby who played music with wolves and whales. And his name was Paul Winter. He lived really close to where I was. And so I thought, this sounds cool. I should do this. And so I got to know him when I was in high school and realized this could be a fun thing to do.
Saxophonist, composer, and band leader Paul Winter is well known for his collaborations with other species, as, for example, his piece here, Wolf Eyes, a musical setting of a wolf's howl. In concert, Winter gets the audience to howl along. Paul Winter is still living in Litchfield, Connecticut. He's in his 90s and maintains a very active career both as a musician and as an environmental advocate.
And I started playing along with natural sounds and got interested in this. But that being said, it was many years before I got back to it. It was in the back of my mind until I met another pioneer of a similar generation, R. Murray Schafer, the Canadian composer. He's a great character, and I happened to be at the Banff Center for the Arts on a residency in 1991, and he came by. And there I realized there was a world of cool people doing music with nature. I wanted to be part of this.
In his book, The Tuning of the World, the Canadian composer, music educator, and philosopher R. Murray Schafer pioneered the concept of the soundscape, the acoustic analog of the landscape. And in doing so, he taught us all to listen with fresh ears to the world around us. Schafer's other book, Creative Music Education, is an equally important document that brings new insights to music educators all around the world. I've used it extensively in my teaching, and I can't recommend it highly enough. Here's one of Murray Schafer's pieces, For a Wilderness Lake, 12 trombones in different locations on the water's edge. It can only be heard on the lakeside. This is not a concert hall experience. R. Murray Schafer. David has written many books about his collaborations with other species and about the mysteries of their own musical selves. Among them are Why Birds Sing and Bug Music, How Insects Gave Us Rhythm and Noise. I asked him to tell me a little bit more about working with insects.
I'm so happy to be invited today to play along with this distinguished orchestra. These guys are really old school, and there's so much wisdom you can hear from them, the real greats. We've got Carolina ground crickets, bush katydids, tree crickets, and a whole distinguished ensemble. A whole human interest in noise as music. Technologies that make washes of sounds, distorted guitars, electronic instruments. It all comes back to this world of bug sound. Our whole biology and culture evolved in the presence of all this. That might got someone the idea to start having a rhythm and shake something. These layers of rhythms. One is going, another's going, and then the katydids are going,
Insects are the most obvious choice because they're probably the oldest musicians that people really hear because they've been around for millions of years before birds or mammals, and they make all these rhythmic percussive sounds that clearly would have been there when humans started making music. It's right. Traditional to say that, you know, our rhythms that we like come from walking or the heartbeat. I think they come from bugs. You're hearing in the rainforest, on the savannah, everywhere. Bugs are making sound.
I appreciate this kind of sound as not unwanted noise, but a kind of music, kind of necessary music, because you know it's necessary for them. It's the culmination of 17 years underground. They've been alive for 17 years. This guy, 17 years has been underground. Now he's come out for just a few weeks to sing, fly, mate, and die. You know, and it's just this amazing aspect of the cicada's life that has been celebrated for thousands of years. There's poems from all over the world, particularly in Chinese and Japanese, about this incredible singing and music of the cicada for such a short time, and then it's gone. start to hear this tone in your dreams, a tone hard to place, in between C and C sharp.
You're working with a collective intelligence rather than that bird over there or that particular wolf sitting on that particular rock.
That's right. You join in if you're going to play along with a few million 17-year cicadas that are flying around once every 17 years. You're just one more voice in this huge wash of sound. And it's very interesting and humbling to join in that way, be part of something that where one individual is just a small, tiny element. That's very humbling for humans who like to be the center of attention, the star, etc. Like when you hear a million 17-year cicadas singing, first it's just like whoosh, but then you realize there's 3 separate species. Each one is making up to 4 different sounds. It's like a whole orchestra where everyone's doing their part. And you start to be sensitive to this, you tune into it. It changes how you listen and how you decide what sounds you want to add to this listening.
Human beings have interacted with the natural world in making their music for as long as there have been human beings. Sometimes it doesn't end up so well for the other creatures involved in the collaboration, as when an animal gives up its skin for a drumhead or its bones for a flute. In this 1961 recording, a Sepik tribesman from Papua New Guinea holds a captive beetle up to his lips, changing the shape of his oral cavity to reinforce different overtones, sounding just like Tuvan throat singing. For his part, David prefers a non-destructive approach to these collaborations. Sometimes he'll get a group of interested fellow musicians together, and when they make music with cicadas or birds as an ensemble, the effect is both meditative and festive.
You know, when we're all together doing this, we're combining human musical ideas with nature's musical ideas. You hear 3 basic musical strategies at work in these 3 species. For example, you hear doo, you hear that continuous tone. That's made by millions of cicadas doing this. Pharaoh, Pharaoh. Literally, that's what they do. Now we hear something unusual. That's the 3rd of the 3 cicada species, and hardest to hear because it gets drowned out later. That's called Magicicada septendecula, and they're like shakers doing a rhythm. to hear is one called cicada cassini. An individual goes kind of noisy. But then when you have millions of them, they synchronize in waves of noise.
In my work, I'm most interested in getting people to pay attention and interact with, not just listen to, but find a way that as a human musicians, we can join in with this. And that's sort of a metaphor for human life on this planet. It's not just us here and nature there. We have to be part of nature if we're going to be able to save it with a place for us in it.
Michelle Kislyak talks about humans living polyphonically with nature.
That's very, very beautiful. Yeah.
I think.
Yeah. I mean, you have people who live together with the sounds in their environment. And again, you have this metaphor like, oh, people can fit in and not stand out and not destroy. And they can do it with music as well as everything else. So.
I asked David to tell me a significant encounter that he'd had in his travels, and he told me the story of discovering the Blythe's reed warbler.
One morning in Finland, we were looking for nightingales, and we came across this incredible song. It was like just before dawn. And what was incredible is it was so varied, so complicated, so accessible to the human ear. It wasn't too high, wasn't too fast. It was like just right. And then I started getting more interested in this bird. And it turned out like there's hardly anything written about it. There's very few papers, many of them are in Russian. And then I discovered though on YouTube, there was this YouTube page under the name Flacco Weasel. And under Flacco Weasel's page were hundreds of cartoon videos of the song of this bird. Hundreds of them. There was a person obsessed with this one bird. So for 9 months, I kind of like corresponded with her, and I went there. We had an amazing time, got incredible recordings. It really pushed on my Dawn Chorus project. And she's a on the spectrum person who's just obsessed with this. And we start. I interviewed her, and she goes, I'm really shy. I can't really talk. And I asked her one question, and she talked for 2 hours. You can start playing with a Blythe's reed warbler, and it just doesn't stop. Like you just keep going. They start singing when the nightingales sort of stop in Estonia. That's like 2 a.m. Nightingales stop, and the Blythe's reed warblers begin, and they go on for hours. And the sound is just like, it's just, nobody's going to think it's a bird. They'll think it's a musician playing electronics in the middle of the night.
It was only a few decades ago that the exquisitely long and detailed songs of humpback whales first came to public attention. Since then, those whale songs have surfaced in other people's recordings, used often to evoke the mysterious world underneath the ocean's surface. But, due, I would guess, to logistical complications involving boats and loudspeakers and microphones, true interspecies collaboration has always been rare.
And then I said, I've got to do whales next, because I know that people didn't know whales could sing until the 1950s. There must be some interesting story here. How did we find out about this? How did we, what happened when we all of a sudden knew whales could sing? So that story just had to be told. And I said, I want to go play with these whales. And because lots of people seem to have talked about this, but there wasn't so much evidence of people making music live with whales. They talked about it. Where was the recordings? Why wasn't there more of this? And so I went and did that with many different species. And we're going out to meet the whales and make some music with them. Come on. humpback whales are the most musical. They really sing long songs. I've also played with belugas and orcas. They kind of talk with each other and sound. They use sound more like language, but it still can be thought of as in a musical way. The one example I have where the whales tend to go like woo, and when I'm playing a continuous note in the clarinet, the whale tries to go and try to match it, even though I'm not big in everyone copying each other. That moment I thought, well, maybe this whale actually is being affected by what I'm doing. And that seemed like a kind of special moment.
A little tiny bridge.
Yeah, and also, I learned that the more as I did this, that whales, unlike most bird species, they change their song from year to year. They're actually looking for new ideas.
Oh my gosh.
David's recent album, Lost Steps, emerged as the result of his time in the Amazon.
Visionary architect to build this amazing lodge in the forest, right in the jungle next to the river, where you hear just kinds of sounds they previously had only heard in recordings and film.
Wow.
Really just so rich with stuff happening all day and night. I made an album from that trip called Lost Steps, named after the Alejo Carpentier novel about the composer who goes into the Amazon and only then has the inspiration to write this ultimate symphony. He's been blocked for years, but of course there's no paper, there are no pens, and that's an amazing kind of book that I always found very provocative. So I went and did it, felt the same way.
Over the past several years, David has become increasingly interested in underwater sounds, a remarkable sound universe, most of which is still unknown to science.
This is a hydrophone. It's an underwater microphone. It picks up sound underwater, and there can be all kinds of creatures.
And you don't have to travel to Hawaii to play music with whales or Australia to play with lyrebirds. You can go right in the woods nearby and hear mysteries. 90% of the natural sounds in your average pond are unknown to science. Can you believe that? They're right here. No one's been able to figure out who's making all the sounds, what plants, what insects. So you can't tell where it's coming from. Like, it's amazing. We don't know this unknown, beautiful, crazy noise and rhythm, and it's really interesting, very beautiful. That we just don't know what they are. Like that, I love that. I love that there's so much unknown. Right? It's fantastic. And I'd always heard that ponds made interesting sounds, but I hadn't spent time trying to listen to them and record them. And now we couldn't go anywhere else. I just went into the woods and stuck my hydrophone in the pond and heard all kinds of amazing things. And that became a book that came out in 2024 called Secret Sounds of Ponds. Yeah, it was a very fun project, and I'm doing many live pond concerts. In the endless proliferation of media like this podcast we're making now, there's so much being made. It's really got me thinking live events are like the most important things, to show up and do things that maybe are just live, then maybe they're not recorded, maybe you have to be there. So this Sunday I'm playing a concert live with a pond called Lost Pond that's famous for very cool sounds, and you can listen to Lost Pond on the Secret Sounds of Ponds project. You'll see there are very strange sounds in that pond.
Sounds like it's logistically pretty complicated.
It's amazing how another case it would be nice to have a team that exists. It's just like me doing things and trying to get someone to put on the event so I don't have to get people to come. And so this project has gone in interesting ways. I've done live pond concerts all over the world. Sometimes people want to invite me to give a talk. So I'll give a talk if I get to play a concert. And let's do something outdoors, live with these sounds. And they're usually reticent. I talk them into it.
When you give a pond concert, do you have speakers above ground so that audience members can hear?
Yeah, I have like little Bluetooth type speakers. I plug them into the hydrophone. You hear live what's in the pond. And sometimes I transform that live. I often have pre-recorded other ponds that I know sound good. And then I play electronics with an iPad and play clarinets. Other people will play different instruments.
Musical notation offers composers the tool to analyze and structure what they do, but it's a very, very inadequate tool for representing the sounds of non-human species.
One thing I've really working on is better visualizations of the structures of complex sounds in nature. Like we've got sonograms that are in bird books that certain computer programs pump out, like Audacity, Amadeus, and Spectral Layers, Isotope RX. They make sonograms to visualize sound. They could be way more beautiful, way more informative if some digital designers, information visualizers, and like programmers and scientists got together and played around with this. We could have way better sonograms and really have these beautiful artistic visualizations of natural sound where we really learn about them. And we can do a lot with AI and technology, but so far it's not as good as it could be. Okay, that's the humpback whale at its regular speed.
When sonograms are combined with speed manipulation, allowing the different time scales of animals as diverse as nightingales and whales to be brought to a common denominator, fascinating patterns emerge.
You'll find when you speed it up, raise the pitch. It starts to sound remarkably like the song of a nightingale.
That's the actual nightingale song coming in. And here's the slowed down nightingale. It sounds quite a lot like a humpback whale. There's the actual whale to compare. Now you hear an even blend of nightingale and whale, their actual speeds, their slowed down, sped up speeds. A kind of melange of the whole aesthetics of some songs in the natural world, very extreme songs. They somehow all seem to fit together. There's a kind of aesthetic of nature. Here it is, singing all around us. So what does it all mean? That in evolution, some aspect of the beautiful survives.
The similarity between these extreme examples of animal communication and sexual selection, like this is runaway sexual selection. Mm-hmm. No reason for humpback whales to sing for hours. No reason for nightingales to sing for hours. It's just evolved through sexual selection. Like the females somehow really like this behavior. A lot of things we don't hear it, or maybe something's too fast or too slow. You adjust it into the human realm. I try and learn from these sounds, and I try to play live with them rather than just take them home and as musical material. That's easy. Mm-hmm. You can turn any sound in nature into anything. You could turn, and now people like to just collect data from things. They say there's mushroom music, but they just attach electrodes to the mushrooms. They go into a synthesizer. It can sound like anything. I would agree with the plant communicator scientist Monica Gagliano to say that kind of music's kind of bullshit. If you can do anything with it. I really want to listen to the sounds that nature is making.
David, tell me something about the future of interspecies music in a world where climate change is transforming our natural environment this rapidly and this tragically.
Well, you know, in my day job as professor at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, half the time I'm teaching weird music classes, but the other half the time I'm teaching philosophy classes about contemporary issues. And we're talking about climate change and so this is something I've been thinking about right now. You know, this is a tremendously difficult question for students to consider. Like, what? Climate change, we can't do anything about it, even if we stop all emissions right now. Look at all the disasters that are coming. Don't tell us this. What are we supposed to do? And, you know, we try and wrestle with this. And I just tell them, all of you, whatever you're doing, part of your life is going to be about dealing with this new situation. And although one can easily be pessimistic getting all this information, you know, at the same time, we just have to work as hard as possible to make a difference here. And say, if you're a musician, you know, go out there and make music with the sounds of other species that are also musicians. And yes, it's a tragic time. So many species are disappearing, but others are not. Others are thriving, and we can understand them. And we can, you know, in the 1960s, a lot of people cared about nature. That was the birth of the modern environmental movement. But, you know, whales were not discussed until Whale Song and the famous album Songs of the Humpback Whale was released by Scott McVeigh and Roger Payne. became a major hit. It was like a multi-platinum best-selling nature recording. And people said, my God, whales can sing. And Scott McVeigh went to Japan and met with whaling executives and was on national TV playing these records of whale songs. And some of these whaling, magnates burst into tears saying, I'm so sorry, we didn't know. And it was the song of the whale that helped people learn to stop killing whales. And sure, some countries are killing whales now, but their numbers have bounced back tremendously because we by 1986, took a little while, we set a worldwide moratorium on whaling, which is followed by most countries in the world, and we're killing far fewer whales than we used to because of the song. It was the music that did it. And that could happen with so many other species. So climate change is this huge challenge. But the more we value, the more we think of insects as beautiful musicians, the more we'll be worried about their disappearing numbers and do what we can to change the situation. I'm seeing all around in the city and in suburbia, new sort of pollinator gardens are being set up. Wild flowers are being planted, native species to change in little ways what we can do with the ecology. And I'm seeing so many more people get interested. So many people are getting out into nature. So many musicians are recording the sounds of nature and listening and trying to connect to the places they live in.
David Rothenberg, it's really been a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you so much for coming on and spending time with us.
Yeah, thanks a lot. And good luck with the whole project. And I hope it becomes something we can tune into for a long time to come and learn about all this cool stuff going on.
To learn more about David's work in interspecies music and communication, visit his website at davidrothenberg.net, find his music online at terranovamusic.bandcamp.com, or find his podcast, Soundwalker. I'm Warren Senders, and this has been Cool Tunes for Hot Planet. Please share this podcast with your friends, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
There is no gap. Pulls me over, pushes me away.